All right, we're back. I'm back. I always say that. All right, here we are. You're back here at Al's Drum School for another mini episode with me, Al. Today's topic is: are grades really worth it, or is it something that you think you should pursue with your child's learning?
You won't create a style because style is a crystallization, and that way it's a process of continuing growth.
It's a nice early morning. I was going to say Bon was up early today. She's up early every day. Anyone with a toddler in the house knows that there's no such thing as a lion with a baby. So I was up, but she slept. So I was able to work out, have a cold plunge, and come down to the studio a little bit early and record this for you. I had some tunes to go through as well. So I'm here in the studio and we're going to dive into today's topic. Today's topic is: are grades really worth it, or is it something that you think you should pursue with your child's learning? Now, there's lots of mixed opinions on this. And again, I'm not the gospel. I'm just sharing my experience and my thoughts with you and my opinions on them. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to disagree with me. It's up to you. You choose. I think that generally, so we'll start with a general sort of overlook of what I think about grades, and then we'll dive in a little bit deeper into them. Personally, I think the grades are awesome, and I'll give you my reasons for those. I think that there's several reasons actually. Yeah, so let me like break that down a little bit as I normally do. So I think one of the first reasons that comes to mind for me is structured learning, having real clear guidelines to be working within. Now, it's not the only thing to do while you're learning, obviously, and actually with my students we tend to do, like, we'll take breaks from the ones that are doing the grades. We'll take breaks from them every so often because it is also about keeping that love and that fun for it. Now, some students love that and they get into it and they really enjoy that kind of structured learning. Other students, maybe not so much. They kind of prefer a little bit of a student-led type of style. But that's kind of leaning into the next point for me. But I want to finish this one, that I think they're awesome because of that sort of structured learning and that guidance. Now, there is various different grades or sort of exams, whatever you want to call it. There's lots of different versions. The kind of main two that we teach here are what we would call rock and pop, which in sort of in non-musical terms is learning to play along to songs. And then the classical grades, which we call them, are more sort of musically diverse. There's a lot more technical exercises to do inside that, and there's a lot more rudimentary drumming that happens with inside those grades as well. And those are the two that we landed on here. There is a few other options. I like Trinity. I think Trinity is cool. We work with them. They're all really nice people that we work with, and it's an awesome they have, rather, I want to say they have a really, really nice, like, diverse musical selection. Like, in the initial grade you're playing jazz, there's a potential to play it's like a show tune. It's a swing tune, which I think is amazing. And then you're also learning rudiments from day one as well, which I think is really, really powerful. Now, I kind of was started leaning into that a little bit in terms of how we would select, or rather not how we would select. The process of a student taking a grade is always a conversation that's had. It's never a sort of two-way conversation that's had. It's never me deciding or one of our teachers deciding that that's what's happening. That's not really how we teach here at Al's Drum School. If I think that well, first of all, I offer it to everybody. Everybody is welcome to start studying their grades, whoever they are, whether they're a complete novice, an adult. Obviously, the grades go from really sort of basic drumming to really quite advanced drumming, and it doesn't matter what age you are. You can start taking one of those start working from one of those grade books. So we offer it to everybody. Now, not everyone wants to do it, and I totally get that. And there's a few sort of reasons why some people do and some people don't, or there's obviously more, but, well, maybe there isn't. I don't know. But in my experience, the most common ones we come across are that if it's often coming from, so let's take it if it's the student who's maybe feeling like they do or they don't want to, we will try and listen to that as much as possible and encourage whatever their decision is if they decide to. Now, if they do decide to, we will make an assessment of sort of where they're at and enter them in the right grade for their sort of ability. Now, it can change. You can do, we could do a few weeks of a grade and realize actually this is too easy or this is too hard. We need to change that. There's nothing set in stone. And when they do decide to do that, I think it's a really good starting point even if it's just to do 1 or 2 in the beginning. Like students don't have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and do all 8 grades. It can just be a case of doing 1 or 2 for the experience and to sort of build that foundation of their playing, and then like build on top of that. Now again, like a thing that I hear a lot from our families and from our parents is that they, or the parent, when they were younger, they went and took grade exams and absolutely hated it. The teacher sort of forced them into doing it. It wasn't something they wanted to do. It was boring. It was all these things that I hear from them a lot. And I appreciate that. I totally get that. And actually that's a big thing or a thing that I'm quite big on at the moment in the business, is trying to build this culture of music in the house. And the reason I bring that in is that if the parent is feeling like that's something that sort of put them off playing an instrument, then they're definitely not going to be encouraging their kid to do that. And I get that. I totally get that. That makes complete sense. If that's the case, and sometimes we have like maybe opposing things where the student wants to do the exam, but maybe the parent doesn't, we'll bring all of us into the conversation, student and family, all of us into the conversation, and see what we can work out. Now, as I said, there is a few options for the grades, so it doesn't have to be any one way of doing it. The reason I wanted to bring that story in about the parent not wanting to do the grades is because it really does come up a lot. And again, I'm repeating myself, but I get it. I do understand it. I worry, though, that if the student is deciding to do it and the parent isn't wanting to do it, how much of that is being sort of put on the kid by the parent rather than it being the child's decision. And again, the reason I say that is because I think it should be a conversation between teacher, student, and parent. I don't think it should be just between student and parent, or just between teacher and student, or just between teacher and parent. I think it's a conversation that everyone needs to get involved in. So that's a little bit around the like how and why we would do or don't want to take exams. The real big question is, and maybe it's quite broad, but is it worth it? Is it beneficial to the student? Now, it's not quite as black and white as yes or no. It completely depends on the student. Again, why we have different versions of grades to offer. One of the big things that I sort of try and say to a student when they're deciding is, I think it's really good to be under that pressure. I think a little bit of pressure is a really good thing, and it's that performance pressure. It's obviously not physical pain or anything like that. It's a mental thing. It's a performance pressure. Now, lots of the students do exams with us. We offer them in-house, so it's not quite as it used to be with the old school, where you'd go to a place and there'd kind of be this person staring at you, making sure you play every single note correctly. They do it with me here in the studio. So it is a little bit more relaxed in that sense, but the pressure is there nonetheless, because the camera goes on and you have to do it in one take, in a one-er. So the pressure is there, and I think that's really, really good for a student in the early days. I really do. I think that performance... Now, we're not going to go like too far into the anxiety side of it, but that sort of those nerves, let's call it those nerves, and that nervous excitement is a really important feeling. It's really powerful. It's something actually that as a musician you have to learn to deal with. You have to learn to get comfortable with that. Obviously, as you improve and your ability improves, and depending on the environment you're playing in, if you're spending more time in that environment, i.e. a rehearsal room with a band, or on a stage with a band, or in the exam room, or with us and learning in here, you get used to that a little bit more, and you can kind of calm yourself a little bit more in the moment. And bringing those feelings and learning those skills and those tools as young as possible, or as early on in the learning as possible, I personally think is really, really powerful. Now, no one gets forced to do anything they don't want to do. Obviously, if someone really doesn't want to do it, then that's fine. Of course, that makes total sense. And again, we're not going to force anyone to do it. However, I do try and encourage, if I can see that it's a little bit of sort of like just nervous energy and maybe just coming from a place of not wanting to be uncomfortable rather than not being able to do it, or really, really scared, then I'll always try and encourage the student to at least take 1 or 2, because I think, as I said before, I think there's so many benefits that come from it. The other thing that comes up is for the student. Now, the students that do want to learn it, they love it when they get their certificates. They love being able to say to their friends and to their family, look, I'm X amount on, or I'm X grade on drums. Now, that's again not quite as black and white as that, because there's a part of me that also believes we don't necessarily need a piece of paper to validate who we are as a musician and what we're able to do. The knowledge is in your brain and in your heart, and no one can ever take that away from you. but there is a nice sense of achievement. It's nice to achieve something. It builds momentum when you complete a goal and you finish it, and you get recognition for the work that you've put in. It feels really good, and that's only not only, but that can be motivating for some students to get them back in the practice room and start working towards the next thing. Again, with the students that it doesn't really sort of work well with or land well with, that can have the opposite effect, actually. And that's something I think we have to be careful as teachers, is finding that balance between pushing enough to make progress and to sort of feel like stuff is happening and get uncomfortable and learn new things, versus forcing someone to do something they don't want to do. And that will ultimately make them start to feel negative about their lessons, start to feel like they don't really want to come. They certainly don't want to practice if they're not into what they're playing. And, you know, that's a huge challenge that we have as music teachers, is trying to get our students to practice. So trying to find the balance between those two, between pushing for, you know, like pushing for benefit's sake, and pushing and creating boredom and sort of tension around actually wanting to play. So that's kind of my view on it. There's a lot more that can be said on it. If maybe we'll bring someone in, one of our parents or one of our students who's taken an exam, that might be a cool thing to do, to get their opinion on it and see exactly how they felt in doing it. That might be a cool thing to do, but that's my opinion on it. That's how I feel about it. I also want to say that it's not, and maybe repeat myself, but music is art. There's no such thing as right or wrong. I personally believe in music. It's what we create from the skills we have within our physical body, but also the emotion and the feeling from our head and our heart and what we want to express in that moment. So this is not, I haven't recorded this podcast because this is the only way that we teach. That's definitely not the case. We teach in so many sort of various ways depending on the child and how they want to learn, or the student, sorry. So I don't want this to come across like if you're with us, you have to learn grades, because that's not the case at all. It's just a question I get asked a lot, and I wanted to be able to share my opinion on it, and hopefully that will help answer some of your questions. We're making art, we're making music. That's always the end goal, and falling in love with what we're doing is our ultimate mission for anyone that comes down here. For some people that means grades, for some people it doesn't. Everything is acceptable, everything is okay. There's no right or wrong. I hope that answered some questions for you. I get asked this a lot, so I wanted to record this, and I hope you're all having a wonderful week, day, month, whatever you're doing. For those of you who haven't come down to take a lesson yet and you're thinking about it, I would encourage you to do so, especially as we're coming into the end of the year. It's a great time. Christmas presents are coming out. Come and learn something new. And if you're feeling like you want to wait till after Christmas, no worries. Come down in January. It's a new year, a new start to the year. We'll have space, we have availability. We're in a brand new studio. Come down and check it out. You can book your free taster lesson at owlstrumschool.co.uk. Head over there, pick a day and time that works for you, and come and hang out with us. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.